Has there ever been a book given so much publicity, yet seemingly hasn't generated the sales normally applicable to such huge PR? Hi, good morning, Neil Sean inside today from the very heart of London. Oh yes, the wind and the rain have pushed us back inside. And as a lot of you probably did notice recently, we tried to film outside, but sadly the wind gets the better of us. Leave it there. And it's just too windy, you know. It's kind of one of those things where the sound then becomes distorted. And I do get upset for you if you can't hear exactly all the latest breaking showbiz news and royal entertainment news, of course. But back as ever to your royal story of the day. As we all know, Meghan Markle recently popped up on her publisher's YouTube site, trying to repush her book, The Bench. Noble gesture, I thought. And, given the fact now that the book's been out quite a few months, this is the sort of big push into the festive season. And as I've said many times here on the show, I am baffled as to what the book is. Is it a children's book? Is it meant to be an activist type book? What is it? Is it just a thought-provoking, well sort of illustrated book about what life's all about? I mean, I think really that's been the biggest problem for the publishers, not really deciding where it should fit in. And when you go into stores here in London, I've got to tell you, they're not sure where to place it. So it's just in piles in the centre of the table. So again, they're not putting it in children's or adults or fiction or non-fiction. A little bit confusing. But a bigger problem now is arising for Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, as she now likes to introduce herself. Oh yes, suddenly titles do mean something. Now here's the problem, because she's about to undertake yet another major overhaul. And that is because her advisors, let me tell you, and we always have to say on the show, allegedly, are basically saying, that you've got to become more relatable if you're an author. And that's true, unless you're a mega author like Stephen King, who people are frightened to death of anyway, thanks to all of those horror books. You have to find a way of connecting. When you look at somebody like J.K. Rowling, who created, of course, the wonderful Harry Potter, what was clever with her was that we got to know the books first, and then we were introduced to the author. It wasn't the other way round. Plus, she had a very good backstory. That also works when you're selling a book. Now, the biggest problem for Meghan and her advisors is how do they make her relatable to the people that they want to buy the book? That is the tricky bit. Now, this particular interview on YouTube saw Meghan, of course, looking, wonderful, basking in wonderful, fabulous sunlight. I mean, the lighting was fantastic, let's be honest. But of course, it was drawn to the fact that she was wearing a lot of expensive jewellery, an expensive watch, If you're trying to sell a book to children, that's not really relatable. Now, what we can tell you here on the show is that they're going to be rebranding Meghan as something of a more warm and comfy, open, relatable author. And we're not quite sure exactly what their plans are, but as we told you also on the show, The Bench isn't the only children's book that she has up her sleeve. Apparently there are more. Now, here's where, as ever for me, it does become rather intriguing, because Penguin Random House will not want to offend Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, right now. That's because they've invested so much into the forthcoming memoir of the one-time Prince Harry, otherwise known as Hazza. Once, of course, that book's under the way, and if that doesn't perform, then, of course, heads will be certainly clubbed together out at the publishing house, looking at how much they've spent on this project. But for now, what we can tell you is that Meghan will be getting something of a rebrand makeover in the hope of The Bench, and perhaps The Bench too, finally making it big in the sales charts. As soon as we know more, I'll let you know. Neil Sean, inside the very heart of London.